Hi all, on time for the final piece tonight. It's been kind of a show of reflection in many ways. You know, we can't all have booming intels every week, and sometimes you have to take a step back. But this next piece has kind of taken a step back, but also a giant leap forward. Certain events that have been hinted at in the show over recently will facilitate change. It's already started in some aspects, and it will have an effect. And sometimes the wave has a down curve, and sometimes it has an up curve. And how quickly the up curve goes, a lot depends on yourself. And this piece will enable people who want to do the real work to have a heightened jump in evolution terms. So it's a piece to find out where we're all at in terms of the self, our surroundings, and also the collective. Have people done their shadow and inner work? Many will say yes, and many will lie also, not only to others but also to themselves. But do people really not step back and look at themselves and realise how lying to ourselves is not only beyond pointless, it's also stupid? And yet we all do it, I'm no different, all the time. And the question along the journey of self-discovery is, what is the underlying issue to all that? Well, once you find that, you are then on your way to correcting it, as one particular member found out on a call last week. Now, the key to it all is self-healing. What? Self-healing, Thomas? You mean to say we don't need healing machines or pills or psychologists or some new age multi-titled made up label person to fix me? No, you don't. And that's the key. It all starts with you. Do you want to heal and fix you, or are you content hiding behind the mask and living the illusion? Except, as mentioned earlier, those masks just don't work like they used to. They just don't, as many are finding out. The masks are falling rapidly, and the truth wave is washing over the planet in a complete tidal wave that just keeps rolling. Will it stop? Not this time. Not this time. We demanded, sufficient numbers of us demanded the truth, and the truth is what we will get and are getting. In all its, at times, fairly brutal manner. Now, THI members were kind of given the heads up on this back in June of 2015 with regards to shadow and inner work, and then late 2016 through 2017 with the masks of illusion beginning to fall. Of course, 2017 was also the cut-off point for those who didn't choose to awaken to the new world and a new reality. Now, many people beat themselves up over this, but it's not our fault. They are not ready. It was their choice to ignore and accept a brutal, cruel, criminal-led, fraud-laden and heinous crimes world. Not ours. Those who choose to ignore all those facts, it could be argued, whether they are worth saving. To ignore all that's going on in the world, like they don't care. Why should we really care for them? We all do. But it's not reciprocated, is it? As always, when something profound or way outside of the box of what is considered normal, many choose to ignore it and then rush when another date looms. Not this time. There is no other date. We all received many calls to step up or stand up. And for the vast majority of people, they ignored it. Some will make excuses. Well, I don't have a landline, Thomas, or my mobile reception is not good in this area. It was not that type of call, people. This was the inner call. It rang out loud and clear. Some rose to it, many didn't. Yet again a case of most have ears, but not all listen. But thankfully a number did listen and began the work they were tasked to do, mostly quietly, many in the background, some up front, some on the front line, and some active. But you also have a number who have awoken, but there are many still unsure of their role or task. And yet certain people ask, why are certain people in that role and not them? Because you didn't hear the call, or you did and wasn't sure of what to do. You never defined your own sovereignty or tasks ahead. But that's okay. So don't be too hard on yourself. The key thing is some did hear and act on the call. Because if not, I suspect none of us would be here now. Now the problem in life is bundled into a number of things that are all correlated. Apathy, limitation, victim-saviour program, non-sovereignty, no personal responsibility. Now we can reel off a range of excuses or reasonable reasons as to why those problems pervade throughout society. But ultimately the buck stops with you and us as a collective. Like I said, there's no government executive order stating you have to be all or some of the above mentioned, unless that was sneaked into the Paris Climate Agreement as well. But there's also no bill stating we shouldn't care for each other. You know, a majority of society caring or actually giving a shit will solve most of the world's problems overnight. And a bigger picture problem on this planet is the lies told to all. But the lies stuck as people forgot to think critically or future think. And learned only to delve into the past and react to the now. But the past, present and future are all one and the same. Think about that. 3 planes of existence with one wave undulating through all 3 layers, so you can be in all 3 at any given time. Don't ask me to explain that more. I'm asking you to think on it. I did a piece not so long ago about the 3 awakenings, except there's another 6 or 7 that follow that get you in full alignment of not only who and what you are, but also what you can become. Life is all about our emotional and mental states. One or the other being off will set the whole of you off and unable to gain the next level of development, soul development. Emotional states is all about reaction and subsequently how we deal with those reactions. Anger, rage, envy, insecurity, oversensitivity, projection, upset, melancholy, anxiety, frustration are all emotional reactions we perceive that are external of us. But the key is recognizing it is actually an internal aspect of us. An unresolved trauma. Someone makes you angry and you rage back at them is often a common trait to undertake for some people, and some say they feel better after it. And whilst that can be the case in some minor cases, where you have allowed yourself to hold it all in and harbour that frustration and just let it all blab out, but most of the time anger and rage is because you haven't mastered your own emotional state. This is where the 45-55 comes into view. You can be 45% calm and 55% angry. It's a manageable range. It doesn't take much to recalibrate. Now, all-out ranting, faces going red, throttling out to the side of the mouth, increases your blood pressure, your heart rate, and sends the body spiralling out of control and sync. All of it. No one ever won an argument by ranting in people's faces. It's a loss of control. And you will get picked off by someone who is in control of themselves. If you did win by ranting, you've only achieved that by brute force, threatening, and essentially bullying behaviour. That's not winning an argument. That's losing self-control and mastery. And also a loss of respect. In overview, you won nothing, but lost much. Now, one of the biggest issues within this framework of development is low self-worth, which leads to insecurity, indecision, and the key one, non-trust of the self. And then turns many aspects of their life into envy and comparison and competitive mindsets with all those around them, which is the most destructive aspect of how and why we struggle to interact with each other. So where does it all start? Well, sometimes it's a spillover of family traits of your ancestors that has bled through into this one. But it's often your relationship to your parents and siblings that generate most poor emotional states. Now, for some in this lifetime, listen closely. It has been or is your role to correct the ills of your own bloodline. This lifetime. Some will have recognised that, many will not. But correcting the bloodlines of their own family has been the role of many in this time period. Why? To start anew, we have to cleanse and, more importantly, heal the past. This is a new timeline we're going into. Families have histories of generational sexual abuse or alcohol or drug abuse, aggressive behaviour patterns, violence, divorces which spill over into successive generations from one or both sides of the family. And it may have been your role in this lifetime to correct all of that. Now, the comparative mindset starts young, comparing yourself to your siblings and your peers, and comparison in the pursuit of curiosity can be a healthy learning tool. But the pervasiveness of this throughout society, though, suggests it's far more damaging than most people realise. There is barely a single object or interaction that we haven't fine-tuned our brains into making comparisons towards others. And that is the most damaging aspect you can have. And it's often within your own circle, be it your family, your partners or your friends. But if you're always comparing yourself to what others have done or are doing and feel bad about yourself that you haven't achieved that, which then leads to envy, how are you ever going to recognize your own contribution to society, and more importantly, your own value and your own development that you've made? You're not. Now, one person in my life that I know, at some time throughout my life, had a plethora of certificates, awards, degrees and achievements and high-level jobs, but is riddled with insecurity, low self-worth. That person then always feels they've never done enough because their siblings did this or the siblings did that. Then when that person has achieved so much in life themselves, which should be a sense of pride to them, but because of the low self-worth, which is an emotional imbalance and self-imposed comparative mindset, they always have to feel they have to prove themselves. But if you're in comparative mindset, you're never going to win that battle, because you'll always look for something else that's better, or you feel is better. This then leads to a type of self-harming behaviour, self-sabotage, where they perpetuate their own narrative of I'm not good enough or as good as somebody else. Where to then be recognised, they go off the path in a deliberate move which garners discontent or a reaction from those around them, which that person is waiting for to then feel bad about themselves again. And this is like a roller coaster of emotional and mental instability, of which that wheel can be very difficult to get off. Now, from the overview, that behaviour is bizarre, but it can be difficult to raise those types of people once they get into a lifetime rut, and this is what we're trying to do with these shows. Thinking that they are never as good as someone else. The wheel just keeps spinning and the interactions becomes much more frequent. Now, first off, those type of people need to recognise it within and of themselves to then begin the process of the self-healing. It's not an overnight process. It's not an easy process either. It takes hard work. But if that person can spend so much time lowering their own value, why not spend as much time lifting their own value? It's just a change of mindset. Doesn't take that much more energy. Now, the mental aspect can be the cause and the consequences of the emotional instability, but they also work together in a constant battle. In essence, this is your left and right brain, which I'll get into later. Emotional instability can erode the mental aspect with constant battling within and of the self, which leads to apathy, a lack of will, a lack of fortitude, a lack of integrity, and in essence a complete dereliction of who you are. And this leads to another wheel of self-perpetuating behaviour as well, because in essence you are no longer you. It's not the real you. Essentially, you've become a mirror version of yourself, a projection, a mask of how you wish to be. But because of the lack of will and fortitude to master yourself, essentially you've become a shadow being, or multiple shadows depending on the environment and the mindset you keep. And the key is integrating those shadows is the key to mastering that instability. It's not about erasing the shadow, but integrating it within you. That mirror version you falsely project is how you wish to be seen. Why not work hard and become that version you falsely project as you, but currently isn't? And yet, often is the case in victimhood mode, they are actually that person, and yet don't see it in themselves. This is why we say you must go within, because most of what you seek, you already have. The energy people expend to become and act in alignment with the false shadow of you, again, can be harnessed to become the real you. So it's not like it's going to take that much more life force energy to correct it. You're wasting more energy portraying the false you. Mental and emotional issues of trust is a big thing for many, even when just applying it to the alt media. You know, I've lost count of the many questions I've answered, or sometimes not, of is this person or group good, Thomas? And often the questioner states their own doubts within the question. So if you're asking me that question, you already know that person or group is not 100% for you. So why do you need me to validate it? What makes my opinion more important than your own? And so we're back on the wheel again with the insecurity, the lack of trust and the low self-worth, are we not? Discernment is the word often used and many struggle with. In most cases, it's not discernment that is the issue. It's the lack of self-trust. Those who master the self trust. Why? Because you know that answer before the question is posed. But how? But why? You may ask. Because the frequency within it changes. It's like a mini alarm bell that goes off. It's called intuition, which we all have, and yet so few will use it. Many will come up with all kinds of bizarre excuses to themselves to justify themselves not listening. Well, it was just a coincidence or a deja vu, or it was the Mandela effect. No, it was you. The real you. Like I said earlier, people have ears but don't always listen. Either to others or, more importantly, themselves. And again, from an overview, it is bizarre behaviour. You are given a heads up with a brief interaction from your higher self, and you ignore it. It's no wonder for the many, the higher selves haven't been fully switched on, because most of us are profligate about not using it. And like a muscle, you use it or you lose it. And it, you know, if you have to regenerate muscle, it's rather difficult, as you know. It's the same thing. Now, the key to it all is healing the past and the present, to then allow yourselves to have a better future. And remember, you may not just be healing your own past, but also your bloodline as well. But healing requires hard work on your part. No one or thing can fix this for you. No one. Only you can heal the you. People can guide you towards that path, but only you can walk it. And amidst of all this personal and emotional instability lies the you. The you, in essence, again, is the Russian dolls. You started off with one and created copies, none of which is the original. There lies the you that has achieved far more than you all give yourselves credit for. The classic example is I'm just a housewife who looks after the children. You created a living being. Is that not an achievement in and of itself? Or you often hear, oh, I'm just a joiner or a painter or a wage clerk, without realising what you were saying or putting across. So you can only do joinery. Is that who a being that is the crown of creation should describe themselves? Just a joiner, indeed. And the limitation of the self-program runs deep in many, defining ourselves by our current jobs, many of which most of us don't even like doing. Well, if you don't like your job, do something you do like. But I'm just a joiner. Like that's going to appeal to a person potentially hiring you. All that is required is a bit of thought and application to change your situation and thinking. And you can, in a lot of cases, do much more than you ever imagined. But this all requires the mastery of the emotional and mental state. Without these being individually corrected, your path to merging them into one becomes limited. Controlling emotions and mental states closes down the noise that reverberates through our minds and also our energy centres. All that noise is much of what you created to drown out the part of you that says, I need you to address this. Suddenly you are then presented with an opportunity to address it by what many think is some random event. It's not. The inner you is screaming, fix this trauma or fix this emotional issue. And another vessel hears it and puts it and you in the arena to see if you will play or will you run. If you play and address it, that trauma is on the way to being healed. If you run, it will repeat. Now, the best formula apart from meditation, which can be done to gentle musical rhythms or not, with eyes closed or open once you have mastered the memory code of that frequency zone. The greatest thing is to do what you were created for, being creative. It's this version of humanity's greatest gift. We are better at it than any other species, by far. And yet so often we neglect it. We will buy things instead of fixing, get others to do things when a little patience, oops, I said that patience word again. I can see one member gritting teeth at the moment. And perseverance. Just a little patience, eh, Michelle? We can do that ourselves. Values in life of being creative have plummeted massively on a monetary scale. This is deliberate. It's a deliberate ploy by the system to erode another one of our abilities. Arts and craft rendered to a level of struggling existence jobs. Music also, except for the few that sell their soul for the illusion that is fame. So the people with creative abilities end up serving burgers at McDonald's just to get by, rather than displaying their natural talents. Let's get into the myth of separation and how we reinforce ourselves with word spells, left and right brain thinking. That is duality, and also divide and conquer again. And they are best combined into one thinking process. This then puts an end to the dueling between the two hemispheres and the duality, and brings in the harmonic aspect of you, the triality. The two hemispheres are like two eyes. They only give you half of the picture. That is basically in the middle of the forest. When the two hemispheres work together and not dual, in comes the third aspect, which can only be done with a balanced emotional and mental states, mastery of it. The third eye, if you like, that sees through both eyes and has an overview aspect to it as well. And this is really seeing things from a whole different perspective, not only on this plane of existence, but in others as well. Once those three aspects are mastered and combined like a trinity, it then creates a chord connection to fire up the heart center of thinking. Whole different layer. And it's a heightened version of the mental and emotional states of consciousness. And in comes the deeper levels of empathy, deeper understanding, wisdom, higher intuition, and a broader spectrum of the senses of the five, and also beyond the five. Your understanding of life and you goes into a whole new realm. The downloads become more frequent. Knowledge comes to you, not you researching for it. Who and what you are. Your purpose in life becomes more defined, and everything becomes more fine-tuned as you are no longer a nest of dolls. You are your own Neo. The spirit inner and your spirit outer becomes more defined in what you wish to do. No longer operating almost as a separate entity. You and it become one. And when your abilities kicks in, not only the world is open to you, but the universe. And for the higher mastery again, the multiverse and the universal tree. We need technology to travel amongst the stars is the question. When you really master you, you will become to understand how ridiculous that statement is. Currently, most people are stuck in the astral layer of travel, which although cleared in some aspects, it's not all as I understand it. Portals and wormholes are often the realms of travelling in the astral only. Outside of the astral does not always require the use of such technology. That's all it is. Mastery of the self and your own consciousness allows you to travel instantaneously via the cord. Your memory code then kicks in and your destination awaits you. All must try to not use the term astral travelling like that is the only place to go. It's not. There are far more jewels and magical creations to travel to than just the astral. Astral travel is going into the dark beasties realm. So be careful about using that terminology. Word magic and contract are also important. And often we are naive in what we say or what we mean. So no more, I'll see you later in the astral, please. You won't see me there. Unless direct actions are being taken, which is far less now than it was previously. All this beauty and wonder, magical journeys and abilities, meeting places and beings you thought were only in your imagination or in your dreams, well, you can't imagine something that doesn't exist. Somewhere, not in the vastness of space, because that reality of vastness is another limitation program, all designed to propagate the little you persona that exists, what your visions have shown you. Word of caution awaits those that reach these levels. It will be a test of your ego. Because thinking and acting like godlike, destroying all and sundry because you can, lording over others because you can, will cause you to fall. Just like the allegory of the biblical angels fell. You are not God. You became a higher evolved being. Higher evolved beings should not display a lack of responsibility and play dick-swinging contests. You have worked so hard to become that higher evolved being, but that does not and never will make you the God. Because that is Source, the creator of everything, of which we are all part of. In essence, we are the creators also. All coalesced in a massive dance within the spark of creativity, as you become one within yourself and your own divine connection to Source. So to recap, do you still want to keep your limitation, dualistic, self-loathing, self-lying, astral projection suit? Or do you want to expand into your own Source connection and blood code? It starts with you. One simple decision changes your whole life and timeline, which is seen as a small leap for you, but a giant leap for mankind. Another one lights up. As another starts the journey to their ultimate destiny, once that decision is made, then starts the healing. It's all about the healing of your trauma and your bloodline traumas to give you and your future generations a rebirth and growth opportunity. Do not underestimate that last paragraph. Do you wish to float amongst the stars or walk through the treacle of 3D life weighed down by your own lack of self-worth? Or become the highest evolved version of you in many millennia? That's your opportunity now. Do you wish to loop around the Mobius? Or reach the number of completion, the figure 9? Is it a 6 or 9 when combined? Or is it both one and the same from all perspectives, as above, so below? During the love-making act, which is the male and which is the female? It matters not from high above, as it all becomes the one. Divine female, divine male are not designed to be separate. That's more duality nonsense. Before, long in the past, they were one. Because if you draw a 6 and a 9 together and look from above, it becomes technically a 0. But more importantly, the shape of an egg. The home of the ultimate rebirth and the creation of new life. The 0 shape and the egg from the overview is how it all began in the beginning. Out of nothing, 0, came the cosmic egg and the birth of all that ever was. That journey of it all starts and ends with you. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.